Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I will explain the concept like one more AWS services. So this service, it is deprecated now itself, but I want to explain this service because if someone is asking why this service is not using more, so and why this service is deprecated and only why it is allowed to only the existing customers. Okay. So today I will explain the concept like AWS code commit. Okay. So let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. Yes, I'm sharing my screen. Give me a moment. So go to this auto.com. Okay. Now, so today's concept like AWS AWS code commit. So what is this AWS code commit and what is what are all the advantages? What are all the advantages and what are all the disadvantage of this AWS code commit? Okay, so uh, AWS code commit. So we are able to create the repositories, and this is fully managed service, fully managed AWS services. So, okay, so let me go back to the slide. So then I will explain in details in the slide itself. Okay. Okay, AWS code commit. And today I'm explaining the concept like AWS code commit. So this AWS code commit, it is like fully managed source control service hosted by AWS. So, let me explain this is like in the real-time scenario. So why this AWS code commit we are using? And why you are not using the as much as possible to this AWS code commit. AWS code commit, it is having less features. Okay, so the competitors for AWS code commit like, okay, add GitHub, and one moment, I will write one more time. So it is like yes, I will selecting this job button, so I will decrease the font size. Okay, now AWS code commit versus GitHub, okay, GitLab and Bitbucket. So many other tools like, so these are all free services. I mean open source, as well as it is having the large community, as well as we are having more features. So AWS code commit, it is fully managed service. We are having less features than the GitHub, GitLab, and other tools like version control system tools. And it is having less features, and it is having the disadvantages, and it is having cost. Okay, so the major thing, it is having the cost. Okay, and it is not providing any public repositories. What are all the repositories? It is only private repositories. So private repositories. So you got the point, right? So AWS code commit, it is one of the service. So like we are using the storage service. So the AWS came with the S3 service. Okay. So if you are using the server, I mean, if you want to launch the application, so AWS came with the compute service like EC2. As same AWS AWS came with the new service like AWS code commit. So this is same as our GitHub, GitLab. So the same, it is same like as a service. So AWS told like, so instead of using the GitHub and GitLab, use our AWS code commit. Okay, okay, use our AWS code commit and create the repositories and upload your files or create your files. So what are all the things you are doing in the GitHub? So the same way you can you can use this code commit. Okay, so this is the one of the most important service in previously, but it is now deprecated. So now why it is deprecated, I will tell you. So the features of the AWS code commit, it is fully managed, secure with encryption, okay, highly scalable, and AWS integration. So user on the base pricing, support large repositories, event triggers. So these are all doing the AWS code commit. AWS code commit will do all the things, but based on the price, based on the price. So if you want to use this AWS code commit, you need to pay the amount. You need to pay the amount. For example, one repository it will take $1. For example, if you are having 1,000 repositories, you need to pay this $1,000 with the AWS account. Okay, and it is AWS integration as well. So it is based on the pricing. So supports large repositories, and it will automatically triggers event triggers. We are having the event triggers. So okay, now so this is the so this is the fully managed, scalable, integrated service, unlimited repositories, no per user cost. Okay, for example, if you are mentioning unlimited repositories, so you are unlimited repositories. If you are having the 1,000 of applications, so you can create the 1,000 of repositories, and you can use it. You can deploy your application in that repositories. Okay. Now coming to the disadvantages. So limited external integration. Okay, smaller community, and AWS dependency is there, complex IAM configuration. Like, for example, AWS dependency. For example, you need to use this AWS code commit, you need the account, and you need the user ID and password, and you need to pay the amount, right? AWS dependency is there. So if you want to use AWS code commit, you need, I mean, you need to depend on the AWS account. If you are having AWS account, so then only you can go to the AWS account, and you will create the repositories, and you will use that repositories, and you can clone that repositories, and you are doing the operations on that I mean code commit repositories, right? It is having the smaller community compared to the GitHub. Okay, now so what are the competitors we are having? What are all the content? So GitHub. Okay, this is having the most of the organizations, as of now, they are using the GitHub or GitLab. Okay, these are all the version control systems. So I mean, which are all the code we've written. So we will store our code in this repository version control systems, and we are having the for example, you are uploading one file, and tomorrow you change this file. For example, hello to hi. So this GitHub and GitLab, it was maintaining the versions as well. Okay, and Bitbucket, best for Jira tool and Trello integration. Okay, so GitLab is built-in CI/CD tool as much as DevOps tool, and this GitHub is open source. Why most of the people are using the GitHub? So the most of the companies using the GitHub things. So let me go to the GitHub. So here, let me show me the GitHub. What are all the features we are having? So here, for example, here the code and issues, pull requests, actions, projects. For example, if you want to create the new repository, just click on this new button here, home button. One moment here. I think I'm having one moment. So yeah. For example, if you want to create the repository, you can create the repository. One moment, I will, yeah. If you want to import the repository, and this GitHub, it is providing a lot of code spaces. I mean, it will directly connect to the Visual Studio Code. For example, if I want to connect with the Visual Studio Code, okay, so I'm configuring to code, yes, to code at GB, just to create a code space. It will directly integrated with the our Visual Studio Code. Okay, so these many of features we are having um, in our GitHub code spaces, and this is the open source GitHub, and this GitHub is open source. And if you want to make it as private, and you can there are a lot of AWS GitHub, I mean not AWS, GitHub community. So community, so large. Okay, this is the GitHub community. You can go this GitHub community. So there are a lot of discussions is going on. This is the open source, right? So this is the open source, and whoever all the working on this open source, they are more number of we are having. So the discussions, you go to the discussions here. I mean, what is the latest feature, and what are all the how to improve new here. I mean, how to improve this API web hooks. So, these are all the large community, and most of the people developers is working on this community. If you are having anything, if you are facing any issue, you can directly comment, and you can go to that community, and you can add your request to them. So then they will solve your then they will solve, or then they will give you the solution with you. So that's why most of the peoples are using the GitHub. Okay, going instead of going to AWS code commit, AWS code commit, it is having the limited restrictions. Okay, limited. It is having the limited features. Okay, AWS, it is having the limited features. Okay, now I will go to the next deprecation. So deprecation in the sense, as of now, most of the peoples are using the GitHub, and AWS code commit graph will down. AWS code commit graph will down because GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. So these are all the open sources, and most of the organizations. And if you want to use the private repository, so we are having this GitLab. So some versioning paying amount there. So but this paying amount is less than the AWS code commit. So that's why most of the people are moved to the GitHub or GitLab or GitHub. So these are all the open sources. It is having the more features than the AWS code commit, and the paying amount is also less for this GitHub and GitLab. I mean, we are having some versioned GitLab and GitLab and GitHub for maintaining the private repositories. So that time you need to create your organization account, and this organization account will pay some amount with this GitLab. So because if you are using the public repositories, then this GitHub repository will maintain. But when we are creating the private repository, every organization, it will work on the private repositories only, not the public repositories, because every organization is having some limited restrictions, and we are not exposing to our application with our, I mean, our code with our external world, right? So we kept as code as secret. Just we are providing the application with the customers, not our code. Okay, if you are putting our code in the public repository, someone will change something, and I mean, our application will affect, right? So most of the people are using this GitLab and GitHub. So that's why AWS code commit will deprecation is happening. So as of now, so the 6th June 2024, AWS has stopped onboarding the new customers. For example, I am the before AWS 2024, I am using I am the 2023 customer. So I created some of the repositories. I created some in the AWS code commits that will remain same. So I can able to use this repositories. I can able to make the changes, and I can push my code. I can push my code, this code commit, and I can editing. I can managing the things in the AWS code commit. Okay. Now, but after as June 6, after 2024, we are not able to use this AWS code commit. So let me explain in our console. Let me go to the AWS console here. Okay, though this is the AWS code commit. Let me go back to the AWS code commit there. So here, let me go back to the artifacts, build, okay, getting repositories, deploy, pipeline, getting started settings here. Okay, so this is the repositories. Okay, for example, so when here it is showing like AWS code commit is no longer available for the new customers. Existing customers of AWS code commit can continue to use this service as normal. Okay, before who are all the using the AWS code commit, June 6th, I think, right? So June 6th, 2024, they will able to manage the, I mean, they will able to create the resource, create the repositories, as well as they can maintain the repositories, as well as they can clone that repositories, as well as they can update the repositories. Okay, now for example, when I am trying to create the new repository, so my demo repo, okay, so now I'm giving the description. First demo class for the code commit. So I'm just creating this. Let me one moment. I'm just I'm just trying to create the repository. So for example, when I am going to this AWS, this account, let me go back to my, yeah, here this is the new repository. If you want to create the new repository, just click on this new repository. That's it. You can able to create the repository. So you can provide as what are all the, you can you can provide the name as what you want. You can give your names. For example, so this is AWS code commit. AWS code commit. Just okay, just give it as public, and git add git ignore and add as readme file. So just create the repository. Okay, in this is the GitHub. So I created the AWS code commit repository, and I am having the more number of features compared to the AWS code commit. So when I am trying to create the user, it will won't allow, because the request is not allowed, because there is no existing repository in this AWS account in our AWS organization. Because I am created this user, I think 2024 after September, I think December, right? So I am not the user of the before the June 2024. After I created my AWS account, so that's why it won't allow me create the repository. Whoever all is having the access AWS code commit access in the before June 6 2024, they will able to create the repositories, and they will use the service as like as normal thing. Okay, now go to the PPT. So this is the thing hand here, and these are all the alternative things. AWS GitHub, best for open source private repositories. GitLab, best for integrated DevOps workflows. Bitbucket, best for Jira and Atlassian users. So Azure DevOps repos, best for Microsoft ecosystem. So this is for Azure, not for AWS. Okay. Now when we go to the conclusion section here, AWS code commit was a secure, scalable code and had its limited adoption. So limited features. AWS has discontinued for the new customers. So teams should consider as GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket for the future purposes. Now you got the point, right? So so if someone is asking in your interview, so why we are so why this AWS code commit is deprecated? So now you can tell them. Now you can give more number of answers with the interviewer. So AWS code commit, first point is like limited adoption. Limited features. Okay, if you want to create the repositories, dependency on AWS account and the private repositories. It is fully managed by AWS, and it is fully managed by AWS, and it is cost. There is some cost is there using maintaining these repositories, right? So maintaining this AWS code commit, you need to pay the amount. So that's why the most of the peoples will move to the GitHub, GitLab. So there are so many version control tools, like the version controls and tools in the sense 10 developers, for example, 10 developers developing the code, and so these 10 developers merge the code. These 10 developer push the code. Version control system, this one version control system, it will maintain our code. Okay, so I as like you want. For example, if you are having the 10 versions, these 10 versions code you can just push to the GitHub repository. These 10 versions, it is available in the GitHub repository. And when we are merging the code, 10 developers is worked on the 10 different functionalities. This merge conflicts also, this merge conflicts, we can push the code without any conflicts using the GitHub or GitLab. So this is the concept I want to explain today. So you can go to the AWS documentation. Like let me go back to the AWS, for example, code commit. Code commit. Okay, let me go back to the AWS code commit. AWS code commit documentation. AWS code commit documentation. AWS code commit documentation. Yes. So this is the documentation. So if you want to read the things how AWS code commit is deprecated and why we are not using this AWS code commit, so you can go through each and everything. Okay, AWS code commit is a version control hosted by Amazon Web Service that you can use the private store, manage the assets such as documents, source code as binary files. Okay, so these are all the things you can learn the things and the benefits of the fully managed service and work collaborated on code. Okay, description, what are all the description we are you are having, so you can go to each and every step. Okay, the same thing, just we need to get ls remote and we can give that particular thing. We can clone our repository and we can make the changes as in the command line interface also, like in git bash we are cloning our project, right? So and we are making the changes or we are adding the files the same way we can use this AWS code commit also. Okay, but the major disadvantages is it is having less features than the GitHub repository, and this is not open source, and this is fully dependency on the AWS account. So this is the concept I want to explain today. So thank you so much. This is, I mean, I want, why I'm explaining this concept. If someone is asking like, what is AWS code commit, and why we are using this AWS, I mean, why we are using GitHub and GitLab instead of AWS code commit. So in the interview point of view, so I am explaining this concept. So if you are having knowledge on AWS code commit, so you can easily answer. So these are all the advantages and these are all the disadvantages. So that's why we are moving to the GitHub and GitLab. I mean, the other version control systems, and they are open source. They are having more number of features compared to the AWS code commit. Okay, so this is what I want to explain today. And if you haven't subscribed my channel, so please subscribe my channel. Okay, and share it with your friends. If you are not understanding at some point of time, so please ping me in the comment section with the timestamp. Then I will definitely reply with you, reply back to each and every comment, and please share it with your friends. Thank you. Thank you so much.